All right, everybody, welcome to the next episode of Retro Rewatch. We have hit that time portal to go to the present. For the first time, we're not doing a rewatch, we're doing a hot watch. We're doing a first timer. Trey, what are we doing today?
Yeah, we are in the present and not in the past, not retro rewatch, but modern day now rewatch. So here we are. Again, make sure to like, subscribe, share the podcast. I believe we're on this is episode 7 already, which is
I
great.
think it's eight. It's eight.
Eight, there we go, eight. Moving on from John Claude Van Damme, we're going to talk about the most
Van Damme
recent.
was a two-parter.
That's right. Make sure to like, subscribe, share the podcast, all those good things. And we're going to talk about the modern day Deadpool and Wolverine that we both got to watch recently.
Yep. So we'll go ahead and say immediately this will be full of spoilers, no
There
censorship.
you
So
go.
if you haven't seen the movie, don't listen to
Spoiler.
this. We're just going to talk about whatever comes to mind, stream of consciousness.
That's great. Spoiler free, so cut it off right now. We don't want to cause any issues. Jumping right into it because I like to look at the box office. First off, $200 million budget, and this thing is killing it at the box office. Was that 1 billion gross worldwide? Opening weekend was 211, so it surpassed the budget right away. So I mean, this is probably like the most heavily everybody was like motivated or not motivated, but heavily like everybody's really looking at a rewatch or not a rewatch, but
I
a watch.
think I think this is definitely the most hyped movie of the year,
Right.
no doubt. Everybody wanted to see this. This is like the superhero team up that everybody dreamed about, back in the '90s when you were watching the Fox cartoon TV show kind of thing.
That's right.
But yeah, I think it's on par to make like 1.8 billion or 1.7 billion. It is a crazy number, like with its run, but it's going to be one and a half probably at least.
Would this be potentially, I could be wrong, maybe the most grossing R-rated of all time? Didn't I hear that from somewhere possibly?
Oh, I'm sure it's the highest grossing R
Highest
rated for
grossing.
sure. Because I mean,
That's
before
hard to
that, it
do
was a
these
lot of
days.
PG-13 movies like Titanic and Avatar and stuff like that. I mean, for inflation, Star Wars is still really high, but at this point, even with inflation, I don't think it's number one anymore. But you would have to tell me that. I don't know for sure.
Right. So little, I guess, background. So 2016 was the first one. It was definitely original at the time and made really good money. I think it was 50, 60. There it is, 50, 60 million. And I guess briefly on that, touching on Chris, it's been a while. I did a rewatch actually right before it because I saw it with some friends. But the puns and the little jabs and everything was, I think, revolutionary at the time, and how he would just make fun of everything and take a jab. And he was trying to, find himself throughout the film. So, what was your thoughts from
So,
the first one?
so you're not really talking about the first one. You're talking about the second one because the first
Yeah.
one was actually Wolverine Origins. Was the first time we saw Deadpool, and Ryan Reynolds was in like the first 10 minutes of that movie.
I was talking about,
Um,
well, sorry. I'm a little, and back a little bit on me. Like, I got lost. We'll get into it. I got lost a little bit with the whole MCU. I know you follow it a whole lot closely, and some of the stuff to pop up and all the little like jabs and everything. I was a little kind of lost a little bit because I guess I don't watch all the Marvels. Like, I watch Endgame, but they're just so over the top these days. But anyway, yeah,
well, they're not,
you just
for
said
the
something
most
I
part, they're
normally
not
didn't
very
know.
good
So,
anymore. Not
yeah,
since the snap.
yeah.
But I mean,
Anyway,
I mean, Ryan Reynolds has just always wanted to be Deadpool. I mean, that's like his passion in life is to be Deadpool. And oh my gosh, what a passion to be because he is so good at it. But, he had to work so hard to get that first film made. I mean, he had to do a lot of stuff, money out of his own pocket because it was going to be an R-rated superhero. Like nobody wanted to make it. Like a lot of what made it so good in the comics, like he had a lot of internal monologues. He had fourth wall breaking, stuff like that, that in movies, unless it's the naked gun, doesn't really work. So when you're trying to talk about doing that, and then pairing it with a bloody action movie that's going to be rated R. So, I mean, you're talking about all these different things that are going to be like reducing your audience. I mean, for understandably so, really, to some extent, people were afraid to make it. But then they did it so well, and everybody loved the character so much. I mean, it was a huge success.
mhm, it was. I will say, looking back on it, so the positive was dialogue, comedic performance were great, fight scenes, and Gina Carano popping up in it. And then I thought the villains, were good in it. And then Colossus. And then
Yeah,
the Sinead
Colossus,
O'Connor
and
jokes
then
with the girl, that was funny.
yeah, the
Um,
atomic super bomb lesbian, whatever her name is. I don't remember her name. But then
yeah.
in that screen was Ajax, the industrial cleaner.
Oh yeah. I will say the 2016. I mean, I know it's 2016. I'll say it was kind of the overtop Marvel. Maybe the special effects. I know it's 2016, 8 years later. Maybe didn't age too well, at least for me. You could definitely tell it was green screens and everything. Your opinion on that? If I had to be real negative about it, but overall, great. It was a good rewatch and everything. Aged pretty well, maybe except for the special effects to be nitpicky.
So it's really interesting to me because, like, really, if you honestly go back and really assess the movie, everybody thinks of it as an action movie.
Mm,
It, it really doesn't have a lot of action in it. The thing is,
yeah,
too, it really has like two action scenes. There's the action scene on the bridge, and then
mm,
there's
yeah,
the climax action scene on the crash spaceship from Captain America Winter Soldier.
yeah.
But the thing is, the bridge action scene is throughout the whole movie because what they do is they start it with the action scene and then they've got flashbacks. You know what I'm saying? So like they tell the story while the action scene's going on, which makes it feel like there's more action in the movie because they break that one action scene up to like 4 or 5 different blocks. But I don't know if it was Ryan, if it was 20th Century Fox or whoever, but whoever marketed this thing knew what they were doing because it came out on Valentine's Day.
Well,
And I mean, from the rip, you're like, how is this movie coming out on Valentine's Day? Like, it just doesn't seem like the kind of movie for that at all. But there again, like I just said, like if you really look at it as an action movie, yes, the action in it is really good. It's great, but there actually isn't a whole lot of it. It's a love story. And
it
that
is.
is how they really marketed it for it coming out on Valentine's Day was like, take your love to go see a love story. And it's about him and Vanessa, who is Monica Baccarin, I think is her name. Isn't that right? She is gorgeous. I mean, she's from
Miranda,
Firefly.
Miranda,
Morena
yeah,
Baccarin.
yeah, yeah.
So, and I mean, like first thing I remember seeing her in was Firefly. She is just, I mean,
She,
next level, like one of the most beautiful women in the world.
she is.
Um, but the thing is, like, even past the beauty of her, like, there really is a lot of depth to their relationship because you've got the part in the beginning when he becomes diagnosed with cancer.
Yeah,
And there's the scene where, like, the doctor's talking and the sound fades away, and he's just looking at her, and all he starts talking about is just if whatever seconds I got left, I just want it to be with her. And then, of
it was a
course,
good
that's
one.
the call to action for him to go get the experimental work done that turns him into Deadpool, which ironically he believes because of that he can't go back to her, and that's kind of the rest of the movie is them finding their way back together.
Yeah,
Um, but yeah, that was a really good one.
it was.
Really, really good movie.
One of my favorite lines is, "I'm gonna put balls in holes," and then you're like, "All right, where's this going?" And then it shows, "Hey, we're gonna play some games or whatever at the arcade or wherever they were at." And then you might know a little bit more because you're well knowledge. So the whole T.J. Miller thing that get a little weird after, because to me he was gold in part one and two, great one
So
liners, and
he
then
and Ryan played
yeah,
great off of each other. He was
yeah,
Weasel. He was the bar owner, like wherever they gave out the hits and stuff.
yeah,
But in real life, T.J. Miller, for whatever reason, just really went off the deep end. Really lost control of himself. There was a
yeah,
incident where he had an Uber and he physically abused the Uber driver. And then not long after that, he had a disagreement with. I want to say it was a hotel, but I can't. It was a business of some kind that
yeah.
he had a disagreement with them, and um the way he decided to solve the problem was calling a bomb threat
Yeah,
on
I
the
did read that.
hotel or whatever the business was. And of course, well, that's a felony. Like
Mhm.
that's big boy crime.
Yeah,
And so after that, he's really ruined his career in Hollywood. He lost his, I think it's Silicon Valley is the show that he was on HBO. I think that was the name of it. He was like tech dude or something like that. And anyway, he was in a Ready Player One. He was kind of like the assassin in Ready Player One. Like he was in some good stuff, and he was very, very funny, especially in part two. I
yeah,
thought,
yeah,
um, like the scene after Deadpool gets cut in half and he's like, free balling it. But anyway, we'll get to that, I'm sure. But
yeah. And then the blind black woman, me and both are all three
oh
were
my, the
great. I mean,
cocaine jokes with
she's
her are just
hilarious.
so funny.
It
Oh
is.
my gosh. And I mean, like all the sex jokes that they have too, that are just like, she's like, about to die blind woman and all the
Yeah.
sex jokes they have. Like, I mean, it's next level.
and then him with the baby hand and then the baby legs. Come here, come here, get in here. I don't know
I
all the.
didn't need to see that.
I know that
He put
was
some pants on.
it is. And then
he's
part two,
he's
another one
shirt
is
cocking it.
Josh Brolin. Part two with Cable is Jack, man, dude.
So I love Josh Brolin. He is seriously like a top five, top 10 actor to me. Like No Country for Old Men, going all the way back to the Goonies. Whenever he was, a kid, basically. Like I love Josh Brolin. And I love Cable. Cable, as far as like the X Men goes, is probably my favorite X Men. He's definitely up there. And so for one of my favorite actors to become one of my favorite X Men was just perfection. You know what I'm saying? So it really hurt my feelings with all the stuff, and we're going to get into the third one eventually, I guess. But
Yeah.
with all the cameos they had in the third one, like them not having Cable really hurt my feelings. So
So I could be wrong. Maybe my buddy told me this the other day. So is he actually is it Cyclops' dad or he's Cyclops' dad in the future or how's that? There's something with Cyclops. You know it better. No, did I say that wrong?
he's not Cyclops' dad. Cyclops and Jean Grey are his parents, as far as I'm aware. Now, I
Okay,
honestly don't
that's what it
know.
was.
Ryan was the one that knew all about the comics. I know enough to be dangerous. Now the Punisher, on the other hand, I've
Yeah,
got literally like 800 or 900 comics of the Punisher, but the rest of it, I'm not so versed in.
gotcha. Yeah, but I watched part two. It was really good, and then the sad at the end, man, with the Aha remake. Don't get away. That was man. That almost tear you up at the end. And it's like I said, it's
So
back to love and it's about a woman again. It's always about a girl.
So the first one they marketed as a love story. The
Yeah,
second one they marketed as a family movie because you have him, you have her, but then you bring in the cab driver, then you bring in Cable, then you bring in Domino. You know what
right.
I'm saying? And then you really have the kid too, who is the villain that they try to bring back so that they don't have this inferno future. You know what I'm
Yep.
saying? So it was marketed as a family movie. And I
Right.
mean, whenever Vanessa is killed, like the first go around, like that is like heartbreaking. Like you have what happened in the first movie to bring them back together, and within 20 minutes, she's killed.
Yeah.
And at the time, you don't know exactly what's going to happen from that. You know what I'm saying? And then with the time travel stuff with Cable, I mean, and how they wind up doing what they did to bring her back. I mean, it was really good. Again, and even when they brought her back, it was very heartfelt because there were times where it was almost like he went into limbo or purgatory or whatever you want to call it, and had conversations with her that were just heartbreaking. You know what I'm
Yep.
saying?
It was. And then we'll jump into three because that's where we're here. So initial
Well,
thought,
so I was
wherever
gonna
you
say
want to go with
I'm
it.
gonna start us on this. All
There you go.
right. So first question,
Mhm.
how did you feel about it?
So I saw it with four other of my friends here, and it probably be honest, it's been over a year since I've been to a theater. So I was pretty excited. And I'll say in the theater, wish it was a little closer, but as you know, when you look at these like, movie seats, I always try to get like behind the handicap, there's rows back behind it.
Yeah.
And we were like kind
So
of
you get
far off
some
anyway.
leg
It
room.
wasn't that bad. I'll say, do you want me to do like the normal positives, negatives, mixed reviews, or would you like to go with it?
I
Because
want you to give it to me straight. I mean,
okay,
like
I
warts
will.
and all,
So
whatever it is.
first, what jumped out to me, out of the three movies, best intro. Like I popped, as they say, wrestling wise, bye bye bye. I maybe a bit. I'm a closet little
That
Backstreet Boys
that's the
boy
back.
band.
Is that the Backstreet Boys that did
It
that,
was,
or
dude. And then he's like just whipping ass and shooting people and cutting them up, and he's like, "Don't hurt me." I mean, I was like loving it. It's got the snow, and then the special effects were so updated to me. Like that started out hot. I'm like, this is awesome. I was over there almost like laughing to myself. Also, whoever the stuntman was had some really good kicks. Did you notice the kicks were updated? He
yeah?
had a spin kick. He had some like Van Damme, Scott Atkin kicks. There was like a wheel kick in there. Like whoever they had the stunt guy, that impressed me. That whole scene, and then like he's sitting there crossing legs, talking to supposedly like a dead body after digging up, Wolverine. All that was great. The him and Wolverine together had great chemistry, and then Wolverine is just like the grizzled, veteran. And then it showed the different like how he kept coming back and seeing the different Wolverines, like drunk Wolverine and this other, Wolverine. And I thought all that was great. The special effects were updated. Like I said, the kicking and good scenes. I will say overall, like the story, some people say it's very like simple story. I guess the villains were okay. I don't really know how the one with what is it? Not Magneto. What's it? Made whatever Mr. X, not Mr. X's daughter or whatever that was.
Professor
Um,
X. Yeah.
yeah, Professor X. That I thought the pop-ups, like I said, spoiler, here it is. I thought the one I probably was the most excited about, I know, are Blade. Didn't see that coming at all. Like I tried to stay away from all promotion. Didn't watch anything. Everything I see, like even our text message, la 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 la, all that. Jennifer Gardner was already Elektra. I didn't mind Channing Tatum as Gambit. You couldn't understand what he was saying, but they were joking about it. But maybe you didn't really need all the 100 Deadpools. That was a little much. I felt like they were throwing like too much at you, you know? And then the whole MCU and the joking, like the 20th Century Fox things were joke. Like they're always good about making fun of themselves and taking jabs. But the whole went a little too deep on the MCU and two characters came out, and to me it went too Marvel mode. And I think this is the weakest of the three. I know it'll make a crap load of money. It was great. It's definitely watchable, but I don't really know. It's one of those I'll do like a rewatch, or I'm not going to do a retro rewatch or a rewatch. So maybe a one and done for me. It's on in the background. I'm not going to like, dude, I got to watch it when it comes on streaming, man, and rewatch it. It didn't make me feel like that, to be honest.
Okay, so I'm going to quote like top dollar from The Crow here. Like maybe
Damn.
we should record this and play it back in slow mo because holy crap, that was a lot to unpack.
Yeah, there
Okay,
it
so let me give my end, and I mean
is.
I'm kind of prone to my monologues too, so I guess that was my turn. All right,
Yeah.
so first things first. Um, your last statement is 100% how I feel, and I think that's probably going to be like the most uncommon opinion ever. I think this is the weakest one.
Mm.
Now that being said, that is not me saying I don't like it. I like it a lot. I like it a lot, a lot, a lot.
Yeah.
But I mean, compared to the second and the first one, I think it's lesser of a movie. I think the second one's the best one, is what I think.
I'm with you
I
on
think
that
that
too. I
one,
agree.
I think that movie, especially the super duper cut, kind of hit like everything you wanted to hit. It had really good action, like big, big, big time action. It had a lot of action scenes, super cool heroes, good story, a lot of like the time jump elements. It had good feeling and emotions, very funny. Like it just had literally everything. I mean, it was a nearly perfect movie for me. Now the third one, my biggest issue with the third one, and I honestly think this is Disney's fault, and I'll tell you why. The call to action is false. It is 100% wrong. It would never, ever happen in a million years. Vanessa would never, ever leave him. We've already had two movies establishing that neither one of them exists without the other, and they would never leave without each other.
So,
And so like that's a major problem that the movie starts out with, well, I got to do something important with my life or I think I'm going to lose Vanessa. Now, of course, you potentially have the angle that that's really more for him than her, but even that doesn't make any sense. And Ryan Reynolds didn't want to start the movie with that. Now, I don't know that it would have eventually gotten there, but what he wanted to start out with, going back to what I originally said with Wolverine Origins, the only part of that movie worth watching is the first 5 or 6 minutes, whatever it is, with Deadpool and Ryan Reynolds before he becomes Weapon X Deadpool at the end, which is actually Scott Adkins, by the way.
he did some
Um,
badass moves.
yeah, but I mean the what they did with the character was completely ridiculous, and it wasn't Deadpool. I mean, it was just some producers like, no, we're gonna do this with laser beam vision and like Sith Lord talons and stuff. It was weird, but anyway, in there is a comic series that is it's called Origin is what it's called, and it's about Wolverine and exploring where he came from because he doesn't remember his past, and he's lived for hundreds of years. He's been through the Civil War, Vietnam War, all this kind of stuff. And in Wolverine Origin, which I wish they had actually done that actual comic book, it would have been so much better than the crap they made. But they do a montage for the opening credits where they show Wolverine kind of going through time. Ryan Reynolds wanted to do that again here, and it was going to be like a 7 to 10 minute long part of the movie that was going to show him in all these wars. But it was so violent, and the CEO of Disney, even for it being an R-rated movie, and what we know Deadpool to be, wouldn't allow him to start the movie that way. So instead, we get what we get, where he wants to be an Avenger for some reason, and Vanessa's left him. We have these weird time jumps that are honestly a little hard to follow because now, because of the MCU, it's not only do we have time jumps, now we have universe jumps. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
And they're unless it's Spider-Man into the Spider-Verse or across the Spider-Verse, they're awful at it, to be honest. That's when the MCU kind of got crappy, was after the snap, and we all of a sudden got into these multi timelines and nothing really mattered anymore. But anyway, but in that call to action with Vanessa like leaving him, that just really doesn't fly for me. After we have our
Yeah.
first movie that's a love story and our second one that's a family movie, and now I guess maybe we have the divorce. But it doesn't make sense why we've got the divorce. Now, kind of after that, I really love what we have. Like you talked about Channing Tatum. Channing Tatum was great.
Yeah.
In Wolverine Origin, Taylor Kitsch was who played Gambit, and he was awful. Which, to be fair, I don't think he's good in anything. So, but
I liked him in Friday Night Lights.
who should have been Gambit? It's a question.
John Claude Van
Jean
Damme.
Claude Van Damme. Jean Claude Van Damme should have been Gambit. That would have been amazing.
That
I
would have
think even
revolutionized
now,
his career too.
63-year-old Van Damme, it's not like he's got to do a whole lot of kicks. All he's got to do is have the voice and the rasp, the look, and throw cards. It would have been fine. It would have been great.
He
That
could have
being
used his
said,
hard. He could have used his hard target accent.
yeah. So, but that being said, Channing Tatum was really good. Which, by the way, I'm
Yeah.
not a big Channing Tatum fan either. Although here recently, he's been doing a lot of stuff like The Lost City, where he's kind of making fun of himself. He
Yeah.
seems like he would be a cooler person than what I felt like he would have been like in his earlier movies. And
Yeah.
there's so many jokes, like whenever like Deadpool's like, "Who the hell is your dialect coach?" Stuff
Yeah.
because it's so bad,
Yeah.
and
I have
like
no
it just
idea what you just said. What the hell did you just say?
yeah, and
Yeah.
then like you said with Blade, there's a scene where Blade says, "I never liked you," and then Ryan Reynolds says, "You never did," making fun of their time whenever he was in Blade Trinity, and there were
Yeah.
infamous stories that Wesley Snipes is always in character. He's always Blade. So
Yeah.
like people were like, "Well, what's it like working with Wesley?" He's like, "I have no idea. I was on set with Blade every damn day. All I can tell you is he didn't like me."
Oh.
I mean, so there's a lot of stories with that. Um,
Do you feel like
but
Electra was a little weak? She popped up.
Yeah, I mean, but there are so many characters that were kind of throwaway characters throughout Marvel movies, especially before they were really Marvel movies, because I think that's kind of what they were making fun of. It's like, okay, well, we've got the MCU, and they didn't really deal with a lot of MCU characters. They had these characters from like the original trilogy and Blade and things like that before Disney bought 20th Century Fox. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And so that's kind of the explanation of that. But I mean, Electra was really awful, by the way. Like, I don't know if you ever saw it, but I mean, it was kind of a movie about
Yeah.
nothing.
I don't think I finished it. It was, yeah, I didn't watch. I always heard it was bad.
And so, I mean, I thought she was fine for what she was. I mean, you had X-22, X-23 from Old Man Logan, like, which Logan's excellent. The last movie that came out before this, which let's talk about
Yeah.
that.
Logan
You
was
talked
was great.
about you talked about the opening of this movie and how great it was, which I concur. I think the opening of this movie with the NSYNC song or whoever it is, I don't know who
Bye
made that
bye
song.
bye. In sync. It's
It,
great.
because I'm not into boy. Now there was an old like anthology music series called Punk Goes Pop and Punk Goes Country and Punk Goes Whatever. And there was a band that did a remake of Bye 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 that I like that punk remake. It's really good. But the boy band stuff I never got into. I
Yeah.
more power to you, bless your soul.
Yeah.
But the opening of that movie, so like with Old Man Logan and him dying the way he did, which I keep calling it Old Man Logan, it's just Logan. But anyway, that was a great ending to that movie. And there was a little bit of trepidation. Like you, I didn't do, there was a teaser trailer where Ryan Reynolds is sitting on a couch and he says, what would be really cool is if we made a movie that had Wolverine and Deadpool in it, but Hugh Jackman would have to come out of retirement. I really wonder if he would do that. And then Hugh Jackman comes from like a doorway. He's like, "Hey, Hugh, would you be Wolverine again?" And he's like, "Yeah, I guess so." And he walks up some steps. That's all I ever saw. You
Yeah.
know what I'm
I think
saying?
that was a Super Bowl teaser from back like a year or two ago.
Yeah. So, but I mean, that's a phenomenal trailer, by the way, especially because all you really need to know is Deadpool's coming and Wolverine's coming. That's it. Full stop. We're good. We're all going to be there. Clearly, it's going to make $1.5 billion. So, but anyway, but there's that question of like, well, I mean, if you've got the MCU and everything's connected now, and at this point in time, they have done things to retcon even that awful X-Men Origins movie to make it part of the MCU at this point. Venom's going to be part of the MCU, stuff like that. Well, how are they going to do that with Logan dying? I mean, like, will that undermine how good the ending of that movie was? And the way they did it in this, again, just perfection. I mean, if they were going to like toy with it. That's exactly what they did. They toyed with it. They didn't do anything to ruin that ending. It still has the same kind of emotional impact because that's just so great. When he's digging up the coffin, he's like, "That's not how regeneration works." Oh my God, he's you know what I'm saying? And he
Yeah.
pulls out the skeleton and he's sitting there talking to him like Wilson from like Castaway or something.
Right.
And then, like you say, it busts into this like 4 minute long action scene. That's a credit sequence that is just next level awesome. And then him
Yes.
dancing to that song the way he did. You know, there's several times where they make the joke that Hugh Jackman is like, "You're going to be Wolverine until you're 90."
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I
That was
mean,
funny.
Ryan Reynolds can do this until he's 90 because we have no idea who's in the suit. All
Yeah.
he's got to do is do good voiceover. As long as he's got a voice that sounds like Deadpool, we're good to go.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Well, Hugh Jackman's jacked too, by the way. I know he hated to come back, but dude, still excellent shape for 55, man.
So, you
Pretty
know,
big.
for most of the movie, he's got sleeves on because that's how it starts with him having the sleeves.
Yeah.
And apparently, they did a lot of filming outside. And in real life, he's had some bouts with skin cancer. So that was he actually requested to have the sleeves.
Mm.
And later in the movie, the sleeves are slowly getting torn off to where he's just got the guns. You know what I'm saying? And but I think there's speculation about that's potentially CGI for some of that stuff. I don't know though. I mean, like he's got that one really iconic vein on his right arm. I mean, if it is CGI, they got that like dead on perfect. But he was huge. But you know, you talk again earlier. You talked about the different Wolverines because he goes to all these timelines and multiverses to look for Wolverine. There's one of them that's like midget Wolverine.
Mm.
But here's the funny thing: in actual canon, that's actually the size he would have been. You know,
Mm.
like whenever he sees like the small one, which Ryan Reynolds is like 6'4", and I think Hugh Jackman's up there too, like 6'2" or something like that. Anyway, they're both fairly close. But of course, in the movie world, we're used to now seeing Wolverine like that. So seeing the minuscule Wolverine was very funny. Which and then there was another cameo with Henry Cavill being Wolverine, and that was phenomenal too. Which he was jacked and ginormous as well.
Right.
Like, but that
Oh
was
yeah.
that was a great cameo too.
Yeah. What would you say is your favorite cameo that to pick?
Blade.
Yeah.
I,
Same
you
here.
know, there is another funny part where, well, okay, so I'm going to say two actually. We're going to start with Blade, and then I'll go to the next one. But so there's a line where like he says, "There's only one blade," and then Deadpool breaks the fourth wall and kind of looks at everybody because there's a new one coming out that's going to have that Marshala Ali or however you say that guy's name. He was in True Detective season 3. He was in Battle Angel Alita, the Green Book. I think that's
Yeah.
what it's called with Viggo
Yeah.
Mortensen. Great.
Okay.
He's a great actor. That guy's a phenomenal actor. Like when I heard he was going to be Blade, I was like, man, nailed it. Perfect. But anyway, so there's that in joke. But even past that, I think it was like VH1 or TNT or somebody had a Blade show that came
They
out in
did.
like
Yeah.
the early 2000s. I never saw a single episode, so I have no idea if it was any good. But like, I thought that was hilarious though. But the point I'm getting at, he was so good, and he himself didn't look like he was in horrible shape. The costume he has, like, dang, like, yeah, I almost wish they could find a way in the next Blade to have this Blade too. Like, I mean, even at however old he's got to be 60 something years old, he looks like he could deal. He looks like
Yeah.
he could hang.
Oh yeah.
Um, the other one though was Chris Evans. That was awesome. Do you remember that?
So I got confused because I always thought, I mean, this is maybe me. I always thought he was, of course, Captain America, and I guess he was in the Fantastic Four. He was in two. Oh, so
Well,
anyway.
so let's travel back. So, like, yeah, so I mean, that works on so many levels in this movie because at the very beginning of it, he's going and he's talking to Happy, who is who is uh oh my gosh, he's the sorry for Tony Stark. He was the limo driver who eventually became his head of security, but it's John Favreau who is the director who directed Iron Man. But anyway, he goes to talk to Happy about, I want to be an Avenger. I need to be an Avenger. Well, Chris Evans was Captain America, like you said. So whenever he's revealed, he's like, "Oh my gosh, it's Captain America!" And then he's like, "Flame on!" So Happy, who is John Favreau, who's the director of Iron Man, and he's saying, "Hey, I want to be an Avenger." Well, this leads into like Chris Evans because he was Captain America, right? And so that's what you initially go to and you think. But again, like we talked about Elektra, like we talked about Blade, we've got all these MCU characters before they became the MCU as we know it now. Well, that's Johnny Blaze, Johnny Storm, whatever his name was from the Fantastic Four, which was another awful movie.
Mhm.
And so that so fits in that he's going to be, he's going to be the Human Torch, and that's the cameo he's going to have instead of Captain America. So that was another just perfection, like in joke. You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying? And then you've got the monologue, the two monologues. You've got the one that they give to Professor X's daughter, whatever her name is, and Deadpool saying it. And then he gets his skin ripped off because she's like, "Yeah, you peon, you've embarrassed me, whatever. I'll rip your skin off." Did you watch after the credits?
We did. Yeah, I watched the whole time. Yeah.
So you stayed all the way through the credits. So in the movie, it's playing on the joke that like Deadpool is just doing Deadpool stuff, like to get him in trouble. And then at the end of it, you've got like security footage of the Human Torch saying everything exactly word for word the way Deadpool said it, for real. And he even says like, and you can quote me on that, which is what Deadpool does. And that was so funny. And Chris Evans was like, I'm going to memorize every part of this, no cue cards, no nothing. And it was just absolutely fantastic. Because the other thing is, Chris Evans has got a pretty good reputation of being kind of a wholesome type guy. So with him, like just saying that absolute like trash string of obscenities and stuff is just so out of character. It's it's
Sure.
it's it's jaw dropping and hilarious. So those were
Yeah.
both really good. What was yours?
Yeah, I definitely say Blade. I'd say Blade, and I did like Gambit just because I do kind of like Channing Tatum. He's done some different things, so I always thought he's a good dude. One thing I did want to ask is the kind of homage or whatever with Mad Max. Was there the Mad Max thing in there where they kind of like had the group? I think they even said Futurosa or whatever. What was that
Oh,
whole thing? And are they
yeah,
like linked to
Furiosa.
the MCU at all? I don't know. I just saw like Mad Max vibes.
I mean, well, clearly, and that's what they were going for. So, I mean, it doesn't have any ties to the MCU. I mean, that is 100% George Miller's, brainchild. I mean, he really needs to get on the Wastelands, which is going to be the sixth one, where Tom Hardy is going to come back as Max because he is not young. He is in his 80s, but man, those movies are so good.
Hmm.
And Furiosa, I really think a large part of why they kind of played into that was because Furiosa was released this year. It came out 6 weeks, 7 weeks before this movie did.
Yeah.
And I don't think it did very well either, which is really sad because the movie's really good. Like, I mean, like you said, I don't watch very movies in the theater either. I maybe watch like two a year or something like that. But that was one I went with my 11-year-old daughter.
Right.
You know, nobody cast a stone. She was too young or whatever, but she
Right.
really enjoyed it.
That's great. Yeah, one thing I did want to mention on the trivia part that was interesting. So they had the Leica prayer, which is another. I thought that would hit.
The
There was
Madonna,
another song in there that didn't really hit. There was one of them, I forget what it was. Maybe when they were fighting in the car or whatever. But this one was, of course, Madonna like her prayer, and that was very controversial at the time. And it looks like she didn't license any of her songs, and actually Ryan Reynolds and director Sean Levy had to go give her a personal visit and really push. And I think Madonna goes, because my son is a big Deadpool fan, I'm gonna let you do this. So they had to go visit Madonna and push a little bit. And Ryan
well,
Reynolds, all the
so,
experience, one of my greatest thrills of my life.
supposedly not only did they visit her and talk to her about that, but supposedly she gave them a lot of ideas about how to shoot the scene. So
That's
I mean, clearly I wasn't there. I have no idea how true that is, but I
right,
mean, that's supposedly something that happened.
right. And then to recap on this is interesting. Just look it up. So we both are agreeing that Deadpool 2 was the best. Deadpool 2 is actually the lowest on the IMDb 7.6. The original is 8.0, and then this Deadpool and Wolverine is still fairly new at 8.1. So we're
It's steadily dropping
I was okay,
because it was at like an 8.6.
which is
And
crazy on IMDb.
the night that I saw it, Brad was with me and we looked it up and it was an 8.3 then. And then I guess the other night you called and we kind of sort of started talking about this. And I said, hey, full stop. We don't need to talk about this. And I
Yeah,
looked it up then, it was 8.2. So it's down to 8.1.
yeah.
I think you're getting past the first fanboys that just love anything to do with the characters and getting more to like
Might drop down to
real.
7.9, 7.0. It's crazy. It'll be crazy to kind of hit that overall number just
If
because.
if you ever really watch it, most of the time while the movie's in the theater, whatever movie, doesn't pick one, doesn't matter. Whatever the best score it's ever going to have is usually while it's in the theater. Once it gets a wider release on home video and the people that don't go to the theater and watch it and start rating it, that's usually when you kind of get to the real metric, if you understand what I'm saying.
Oh yeah.
So I will be curious to see where this lands, if it actually lands below two or what.
So real quick, will there be another one with them together in 3 or 4 years? Where do you kind of see it going forward, real quick? Maybe a sequel, or
Mm,
what do you see it maybe, or it's going to be a while?
I I really don't know. I would doubt it. I mean, to be honest, I think the thing with Deadpool, there's just so many ways you can take it. There's so many more like cameos you can have. I think there's so many more actors that would want to be involved in it. I mean, does Hugh Jackman really want to? How old is he getting? Is he about 55, 60 now? I don't.
He's
I mean,
55, and I think, and then Ryan Reynolds is like 47. I think I looked that up.
yeah, so I mean, I don't know. I doubt it, to be honest. But
Mm,
here's one neat thing, and I mean, I don't want to get too political on this, but there's one other thing that happened from this movie because it's making so much money, and this is something you can go look it up. There are a lot of producers and a lot of writers at Marvel who have gotten fired in the
mm,
last 3 or 4 weeks.
mm.
Um, and I mean, the only thing I can imagine is Marvel used to be a lot of fun. That was why you went to them, was to have real good escapism. And over the last several films, they've started to have maybe a little more of a message than some people would want. And then on top of that, you don't have great writing with the multiverse and all that. So
Right.
the point of my conversation, bringing it up, I'm kind of hoping that maybe we can get back to having some more fun Marvel movies again. You know what I'm saying? All right. Well, I don't know that I've got a whole lot more to add. Do you?
Not at all. Glad we were able to at least discuss Deadpool versus Wolverine, three movies. I think we both agree that Deadpool 2 is the best. Here's the other question is, how would you rank them in order?
What do you mean? Like, I mean, oh, well, I mean, the best would be two,
Yep.
and then the next best would be the first one, and then the one after that would be Wolverine, Deadpool, and then like way down, like way down there, Morty would be like Wolverine Origins.
Hey, speaking of this real quick, how about the happily not happily ever after, the one with the Christmas one? How was that? I never even
Oh,
watched it. Yeah, there it is.
actually, yeah.
Yeah, how was
Once
that?
Upon a Deadpool. It's actually pretty good. I mean, it adds, I don't know, like 10 minutes or so, 15 minutes, like making fun of the Princess Bride, with Fred Savage. And I mean, Deadpool's basically kidnapped and he's got him tied up and chained to a bed and reading him a story. And of course, they've cut out a lot of the language and stuff, but even the way they did that was pretty funny. You remember when we were kids and you'd watch a Die Hard 2 on Fox 54 or something, and it had
Oh
like
yeah,
really awful overdub. It
yeah,
had a few things like that. It had where they changed a few jokes. It really wasn't that bad.
yeah. I never
Which
saw that. It might be interesting to watch.
which by the way, just if you look at these two up here that I showed off earlier, those are actually custom covers as compared to like these down here. Those are the original covers. And for anybody that doesn't know, I do this kind of stuff. So if that's something you have interest in, and in me doing some custom covers for you or something, send a comment and I'll catch up with you.
There you go. I like that little slide in promotion there.
Yep.
Hey, and then again, support the channel, help us out, like, subscribe, share the podcast. Let's grow this audience, and yeah, we really appreciate it. It's about that
Yeah.
time.
I don't know if we can hit the rewind button on this one. It's too new. I mean, you just pull the disc out and you go put it in the closet or something. You
That's
hit the
right.
stream off. So there's no running to the video store on this one. I guess we can just go to the couch.
That's right. Go to the couch, and you don't have to be kind rewind. So just place that disc in there and watch that 4K Blu-ray or whatever you got there, or streaming.
Yep.